This is Into the Deep with Catherine Just, a podcast devoted to the evolution of consciousness, connection, and inspired creative expression. And this is episode 1. So on August 18th, 1987, I was in a desperate place in my life. I was addicted to crystal meth, and I was 18 years old, and I basically was in so much pain emotionally that I didn't want to be here anymore. But I heard a voice in my head. It was my voice, and it said, "There's more to this life than what you're living." And for some reason, I heard that voice and told my parents I needed help. I checked myself into treatment and got sober. It's now August of 2020, and I'm coming up on 33 years of continuous sobriety. And inside 33 years, a lot has happened. And the most significant is that I'm experiencing a level of joy on a regular basis that I didn't even know existed when I was out there, a teenager, crawling out of my skin, so uncomfortable inside myself and inside this life that I would use anything to leave myself. And now I want to just shout on the mountaintops that it's not necessary to leave, and that there are so many ways that are so delicious that can help you to stay, and not just stay, but have an extraordinary experience of yourself and of connection and of relation and of expression and of living inside this living, breathing thing that we called life, and that things are always changing. Most importantly, that we have the ability to change what it is that we believe about ourselves, and that we can change our mind in any moment. This podcast is really dedicated to all that is possible in this life of ours. I've seen it over and over and over again. The truth that, I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it, that, we get to our edges. At least I know for me that I have gotten to places in my life that I just was like, you know what? I'm over it. This is too hard. The pain that I'm feeling inside myself, it's too much. And what I've learned by watching other people relapse, kill themselves, leave themselves in a variety of ways, they don't get to the miracle. And the miracle is what's on the other side of the pain. Now what I'm experiencing is that when I get into a place of darkness, I have a little bit of a smirk on the inside of my being that's curious about what is about to happen on the other side of this pain that I'm in. And so just for reference, I got sober when I was 18 years old, and I've been sober ever since. And I started through AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, and it gave me the foundation. I went right from treatment and a halfway house to art school in Minneapolis. I was born in Los Angeles and raised in San Diego, and then I flew to Minneapolis to go to a halfway house where I spent my 19th year learning how to be sober and be in the world. And then I went from that to art school. I went to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design and studied conceptual photography. And those teachers taught me in college that I could use what was going on in my life as my subject matter and create something visual out of something that I couldn't articulate verbally. So I was taking all the pain, all the discomfort, all the questions I had, all the things I wasn't able to say out loud with my words yet, because I was crawling out of my skin learning how to be here sober, and turn that into something beautiful through photography and self-portraiture. And from there, it has been a 30-year exploration of how to express myself creatively in a way that transforms my experience of living, really. And I teach classes in conceptual photography, in self-portraiture as medicine. I lead art retreats in France. Another chapter in my life 10 years later, 10 years into my recovery, where I studied with Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the book, The Four Agreements. I apprenticed with Miguel Ruiz. I worked in his office. I answered the phone. I learned that I could see things that other people couldn't see, as far as like knowing what people were saying without them using words. I'll explain that some other episode. And the Toltec path in the lineage of Miguel Ruiz and his family has been so life-changing and continues to be so. It is infused in everything I do. Any art class I teach, any art practice I'm in, any discussion that I'm having with people, those are the conversations I want to have. I want to talk about what we think is true and the ways that we suffer as a result of the beliefs that we have. And that my suffering, thank God I learned this, that my suffering, 98% of it is because of what I believe about myself, about the world, and that I can actually do something about that I don't have to suffer as much as a result of the tools that I've learned in this practice that I've been in for over 20 years. My work in the world has been a combination of art, recovery, spiritual practice, personal growth, the Toltec tools. I am so available to learning what else is out there that could potentially help me expand my experience of life and to live a more joy-filled, delicious, sensual, fully awake and alive. My podcast is an extension of my life. I'm celebrating my 33rd year of recovery by starting this podcast and celebrating those who have inspired me along my path. I'll be going into the deep end of the pool and having rich conversations with thought leaders from around the world who want to discuss how to live more inside a richer, fuller, more meaningful, more delicious, more joyful experience of living. And I don't know if you can hear it, but my son Max wants to say hi.
Hi.
That's Max. He's 11, and he just said, nice to meet you. He happens to have Down syndrome, and he is my biggest teacher of all, and I will be sharing more about that and about him as we go along as well. Hey, Max, would you like to say ciao for now?
Yep. Ciao for now, Mommy.
Ciao for now. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Into the Deep with Catherine Just. You can check out all other episodes and help support the podcast over on catherinejust.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, comment, and review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen to this podcast. You can share this episode on social media. I look forward to having my voice in your ears next time. Take care.